All right, so to those of you who are watching on YouTube, welcome. Thank you for joining us. We hope that you find today helpful and inspirational for the term 2 going forward. So on the agenda today, we're going to look at Sharpies, and then of course some basics, and then the topics, which is really why we're here: the division, the patterns, number sentence, fractions, and decimals. So this is everything according to 8P that we need to cover for term 2. So what is Sharpies? Sharpies is a maths teacher reward program. And because if you have signed up for Sharpies and you have joined this webinar, you will be getting points. And then once you've collected enough points, just like eBucks or your clicks points, etc., you can exchange them for goodies on our store. Then, of course, you can also sign up. So if you haven't signed up yet, here is the link. I will only be loading your points next week. So if you still want to sign up, don't panic. There's still time. So you can just click on this link. And then if you want to share and tell your friends about it, you can click on this link. I will send this PDF to you tomorrow, along with the link to this webinar, so that if you want to watch it again or share it with your friends, you can do so. Now here is just a list of some really helpful resources and downloads. If you want to use the simulator in your own classroom with your students, you can just click on this link. It will download it for you. GeoGebra is really nice, particularly for geometry sort of questions and 3D. You can look at that. And then, of course, Maths at Sharp is more for the grade 8 to 12. The classroom covers grade 1. But now they have a subscription fee, so just be aware of that. Math drills, really nice, lots of repetitive exercises. Worksheetworks.com, epic, such a nice worksheet, and it actually generates worksheets according to the specs that you put in. So it's really nice and adjustable. It's fantastic for the intermediate phase. Lots of lovely worksheets, even though it is American-based. So for things like area and perimeter, it's got lovely worksheets, and they all come with a fully worked out memo for you as well. So really a nice website to go and look at for worksheets. And then, of course, mathworksheets.com I found yesterday. So I haven't really had a chance to take a look through all of it, but it does seem to be quite nice, and it does worksheets for grade 1 to 6. So you just need to go look through and see what you can find. And then, of course, if you still need the ATP documents, this link here will take you to a summary page for just maths documents on Maths at Sharp, all in PDF, so really easy to use and to work through. Now, today, we're actually going to be working off 2 calculators. The first is the 535, which is your scientific, which we recommend to grade 6 learners. I wouldn't do it younger than that, because there are some things that's completely unnecessary, and kids below that age tend to lose their stuff anyway, so you may as well not. Oh, let me just some important buttons. BS is for backspace, not what your kids write when they don't know what the answer is. Change is really wonderful, and we'll get into change a bit when we look at fractions and decimals, but basically it just changes the format into different equivalent answers, so whether it's mixed or improper or a decimal fraction. And then, of course, your equals button, which will find your answers. So today we're going to look at normal mode. We'll use the table mode, and then I'll show you the drill function, which is really awesome. Now, this is the junior calculator, and we recommend it from grade 3 and upwards, because according to CAPS, they need to have a calculator to be able to check their answers. It's just one of those things. But what makes this one really cool is that it has a mental maths function, and I'll explain what that mental maths flashcard drill function is in a second or two. But it's really a nice calculator for the littlies to use. So we're going to start with division, which is a grade 4 topic in term 2. So what they need to know is they need to be able to divide a 3-digit number by a 1-digit number. And this is just a summary of everything that they need to do. Grade 5 is a 3-digit by a 2-digit, and grade 6 is a 4-digit by a 3-digit number. So this is the mental maths thing that I was talking about, and I actually just want to demonstrate it. And now I realize that my calculator is not here. So I'm just going to do it this way. me. Here it is. So now, there we go. Okay, so this is the calculator, and what's really nice is the simulator is free to download, so you can use it in your classroom for any lessons, etc., with your students. Okay, so let me repeat what I've done here. I've pressed mode, and then I've chosen 3 for drill. Okay, and then you have two options, math and table. Now, for the littlies, table is actually really nice because it allows them to practice in counting ins or randomly for multiples between 1 and 12. So 1 to 12, and then you can just select whichever times table you want to do. Now, if I'm doing 7s in serial, what's going to happen is it's just going to count in 7s. So I can just type in 7 and 14 and 21 and so on and so forth. Okay, let me go back here and I want to show you the math side of things. So this is also really nice. And both of those functionalities are also on the S25. So they also, you can also practice, do exactly the same thing on that junior calculator, which is what is so cool about that calculator. So we were talking about division. So a nice thing to do is actually just to practice your basic dividing on your calculator. So you've got 25 or 50 or 100 questions, depending on how much time in classroom you want to spend on this. If they're driving home from school and they're doing it on the calculator in the car, better, that's fantastic. So, right, when you're ready to go, you press equals, then just per chance, this is completely random, 1 divided by 1 is 1, and we say equals, and it's going to give us a new question. And you'll see, the questions are completely random, so you'll never have the same set or series of questions. They'll always be in a different order, and they're just pulled from that pool of questions. So up to 144 divided by 12. So 1 divided by 1, up to 144 divided by 12. All right. Now, if you get something wrong, right, it's going to mark it wrong, and then it's going to repeat the question again. And it's very patient. It's going to keep asking you until you get it right. So if you're stuck and you don't know the answer, you can just press equals. And then the calculator is going to show you the answer and give you a new question. Okay, so there's no judgment. It's just, okay, cool. You don't know what 63 divided by 7 is. It's 9. So next time they can learn and they'll know, okay, that's 63 divided by 7 is 9. It's really great for practicing this sort of stuff. Then, of course, I'm going to skip through the next bunch. So you'll see I won't get any marks, just to show you the end. And equals. So I got 3 marks out of 25, or 12%. So I obviously need to actually type in answers firstly, but it's nice that you can track how well they're doing as well. If you're a parent, you can have 2 calculators and race the kids. When I was an extra maths tutor, I used to do that all the time, and they loved it. It's something, you know, that's easy to do. And motivational, because if they beat you, they're really smart. So it's a really nice way for them to practice mental maths. And, you know, there's a lot of research that goes into the mental math side of things. And what it shows is that the better your mental maths is, the better your matric results are going to be. And that's just something simple, because you can grasp the basic concepts of arithmetic. So it makes everything else a lot easier, because you're not using those resources for basic calculations. You're using those resources for the more complex things. So one of the things that came up was division with a remainder. Now, we do it like so, and you have 152. Oh, sorry, get a match so that I'm not completely a dreadful writer. Divided by 7. Okay, so we can say 7 goes into 1. That's it. There you go. 0 times, right? And because it's the first one, we just put down a dot, and then we group the next 2 together. Okay, 7 goes into 15. So if we're counting in 7s, we're going to have 7 and then 14. And so we can say that it is 2. And 15 is 1 bigger than 14, so I can put down my 1. And then I have 7 goes into 12 only once, because 14 is bigger than 12, and I have a remainder of 12 minus 7, which is 5. Okay, so that's that option, right? So now you can also do it on your calculator, where you can actually do it step by step with your students. So I'm just going to go home. So we can say 152, and then we have a special divide sign called Insta Divide. It's on your store button, so it's just second function and the store button. You can see in orange it says Insta Divide, and we say equals. Oh, I forgot to put the number. It would help if I was actually dividing by something here. And equals, and you'll get 21 and as an answer, and then of course your remainder is 5, as we discussed already. Now you can also do this step by step. So I'm just going to draw it here. So I'm going to again write my 152 and my 7 here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go step by step. So I'm going to say 1 divided by 7 we can't do, so I'm going to do 15 and my special Insta Divide button and 7 and equals. And you can see it gives me 2 and a leftover of 1. So I'm going to write 2 and a leftover of 1. Now this makes 12. So on the calculator, I'm going to say 12, second function, Insta Divide 7 and equals. And again, it's going to give me an answer of 1 and a remainder of 5. So it's just something to look through and see, particularly for the kids who struggle with this sort of stuff. You know, it's just a different method for teaching it. I don't know if I would teach it to grade 4s particularly, but sharing is you know, the really important thing as well. So all the steps are here if you want to play around with it. It is also nice to check your working as well, if you're not feeling super confident about your own long division. Okay, any questions for that section? We all good? Okay, great. I'm going to move on to patterns then. So patterns is a grade 4, 5, and 6 topic in term 2. So I just want to show you some fun things. You know, playing with the calculator, especially for making patterns, is really a lot of fun. And this you can do on both the little junior one and the senior and the scientific one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with 3, and I'm going to just add 5 to it. So 3 plus 5 is 8. There's my next term. And then I'm going to just keep adding 5 and equals. And now, because I've set it up like that, I can just keep saying equals, and it will actually just give me my pattern as I go through it. Now you can also do this for a geometric. So we can start with 3, for example, and multiply it by 2 each time, and then say equals, and then times 2. And you can see how much faster it grows because we are multiplying instead of adding. So that's just the 2 different patterns. And I mean, you can create as many different patterns as you like without, you know, it's fun to do it on the calculator. So the kids will create all sorts of crazy things, which is awesome. And then, of course, they also need to look at patterns in pictures. So I've actually taken these from a grade 7 worksheet, but they work quite well from grade 4 up till grade 6 as well. So these, if we look at the pattern, and it says identify the difference between from one picture to the next. And we can see here's 1 crayon, but here's 3 crayons. 1, 3, 5. So we can see that we are adding 2 every time. So my pattern is I add 2 crayons to the next picture. And this one here, I've got 1. Let me just make a mark on my pencil so that we know where we counted from. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 petals on this picture. And here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 petals here. And are we going to take wild guess? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 petals. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 petals. So here we can see that each flower is losing a petal, or you're subtracting 1 petal from one flower to the next. Okay, so these ones are really nice. I don't know if you've ever used Canva. Canva.com. You can sign up for free, and they actually have a worksheet, the ability for you to create worksheets on there, and they've got some great patterns worksheets already set up. So if you just want to use those straight off the bat, that's a really nice idea as well. These pictures, in fact, come from Canva. So just as a sidebar. Then, of course, you also need to look at your input and your output values. So we need to be able to talk about patterns in 4 different ways. In words, like, okay, I've lost 1 petal every time I move a flower over, or I've added 2 crayons to each to the next picture, and so on and so forth. And then, of course, tables, which we'll do in table mode in a second. Your flow diagram, again, from a grade 7 worksheet that we created. And then number sentences, which is your formula. So in grade 4 to 6, we don't generally use X's and Y's. We use the box method, 3 times box is equal to 9, and we work out what that means. So that's just a heads up on the number sentence as well. Okay. Oopsie. So we can also create a number sentence in our table mode, and we'll do that now. So we can start off, for example, with multiples, which goes back, in fact, to our division sum. Remember how we were counting in multiples of 7, okay? And this is often something that the kids struggle with. So we can say 7 times, and we're just going to make an X. So our X is just in place of the number that we want to use, and we'll look through that in a second. And you can see, okay, so 1 times 7 is 7, 2 times 7 is 14, 3 times 7 is 21. So your pattern is you're just counting in 7s, or you've got all the multiples of 7. So when you're doing division by 7, it's really easy. And we can do division of 17, for example. Just put 1 in front of here and do it like that as well. Here's my table. So 17, 34, 51, 68, 85. So it's really easy. And you can go up. You can say, okay, what is 17 times 30? And then just scroll through your table until your X is 30. And we know it is 510. So it's a really nice way to do multiples on the calculator. Now, if you were creating a pattern, so 4 times a box plus 3, in other words, we're starting with 3 and we're adding 4 every time, right? And then what we're going to do is start at 1 instead of at 0. So we're going to say equals there and equals, and we're just going to scroll through the table. 1 and 7. So then our pattern is this side, 7, 11, 15. You can see we're adding 4 every time, and we can create a pattern that way. So again, it's just a really fun way to just explore patterns, particularly in grade 6 when they understand a little bit more about what a number sentence is and so on. Now in grade 5, part of term 2's work is number sentences, which we're going to jump into. Is everyone okay? Any questions? Fantastic. Okay, great. So number sentences, we need to be able to describe a problem using a number sentence. And this is where story sums come in. So it's very important to be able to understand the language of what is going on. And, I don't know if I say this enough, but reading is such a critical skill, even for maths, because if you can read and analyze correctly, then that's half your story sum solved. Okay, so, and then from writing down your number sentence, we can use either inspection or trial and error to try and figure out the answer to our number sentence. And then, of course, we can check our answers with substitution, so we can put in the number that we found the answer for and see if it gives us the right answer as well. So here is an example. The grade 5 class of 40 children is going on a trip. Each bus can carry 8 children. How many buses do we need? So we've got 40 children, and we've got a bus. One bus can carry 8 children. So 8 children and children, same thing. So we can say, okay, I need 40 children, and each bus takes 8 children. How many buses do I need? Well, if I put 8 children into the first button, I've got 8. Then I put another 8 children into the next bus. So now I've used 16 children. Then another 8 into the next bus, I've used 24 children. 8 into the next, I've used 32, and then the last is 40. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buses that are that we need for this trip. In other words, we are sharing the children amongst the buses, the 8-seater buses, and we're working out how many buses we need. Now, again, here, this question is a little bit different. How many buses would we need if there were 50 children in grade 5? So we've already done our counting in over here. So I'm just going to keep going. So if 50 children, so if I add another 8 to 40, I've got 48. And if I add another 8 to 48, I've got 56. Right. So here we can see 56 is too big and 48 is too little. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 buses, and then I've got two children that are left over. So I still need another bus in order to carry my last child. So in fact, I have to use this answer over here. So this is what I'm talking about, logically speaking. You can't just leave the 2 children behind. You actually need an extra bus. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 buses for the kids. And you can see both of these working out. It will depend on the level of the student and how easy it is to obviously do the question as well. All right, jumping into fractions. So I know in grade 6, we actually use fractions with the same denominators, but this is just a nice example just to show you how it works. So I'm just going to go home. Home just takes me back to normal mode. So for example, if we have 4/5, so there's 2 ways to type in a fraction. Either just type in your numerator, press the fraction button, and then press 5. And, you know, that's just the quick way. Or what we can do is first press the fraction button, then type in your numerator, press your down button, and then type in your denominator. Either way is fine. It's really up to you for whatever makes you happy for typing in. Now, here's our answer, 1 and 1 out of 45, or 46 out of 45. So we can see our LCM was just 5 times 9, which was 45. And I'll come to that in a second. So let me go back here. So when we talk about LCM, we also can mean lowest common denominator. It's the same thing. So say, for example, our fraction is something over 85 and something over 100. And we need to know what our lowest common denominator is. Now, this is obviously not an example we're going to do in class. It's a very big number. But, you know, in fact, let's choose 5 and 9 because that's a good example. So we've got 5. And let's say second function, and we just press 3, and then we say 9, and equals, and it gives us 45. Okay, so we can see that the lowest common denominator or lowest common multiple, same thing, is going to be 45. Then we can say, okay, what did I do to get from 5 to 45? I multiplied by 9. And what can I do to get from 9 to 45? I multiplied by 5. And the magic rule is what I do to the bottom, I do to the top. And that's how we convert fractions into their equivalent forms. Now we can also convert mixed number fractions. So we can say, for example, we have 5 and 7/8. So to type this fraction in, we type in our whole number, then we say second function and the fraction button. And all that does is glues the whole number onto our fraction. We just type in our things. These buttons are your cursor keys, so they just move your little mouse around, and we say equals, and it gives us exactly the same answer. And this is where we use our change button. So change here, we'll just change it from a mixed number fraction into an improper fraction, which we can then write down or check that our answer is correct. And then, of course, if we change it again, it will also give us our decimal answer. All right, great. Then the next thing is we need to be able to find a fraction of a whole number, okay? Now, we would do this without the calculator as so. So we'd say 4/5 times, and then we put the 80 over 1. And we look for common factors. So 5 goes into 80. We're going to say 5 goes into 5 once. 5 goes into 80. 5 goes into 8 once, left over 3. 5 goes into 30 6 times. So now I have 4 times 16, which is 64, and 1 times 1, which is 1. So my final answer is going to be 64. And we can check it again on the calculator, just very quickly, by saying 4 over 5 times 80, like so, and equals, okay, and we did it correctly. So we are all okay. So that's just, again, a nice way to do it and to check your answers as well, you know. And then, of course, percentages. So I'm going to show you the way that we do it in grade 6, which is this option here. So in fact, I'm not going to do it on the calculator because you can see step by step what's actually going on. So again, we create our fraction 20 over 100, we multiply it by 80, and we get an answer of 16. Now there's a nice shortcut on the calculator, which I'm just showing you for checking purposes and not because I want you to use it with your grade 6 classes, because I really don't want you to do that. But it is good to know that that option is there. Okay, so all we do is we say 80, and then we say times 20, and then just second function and 1%, and you'll see it will automatically calculate that percentage for you. So that's why I'm telling you, I wouldn't use it with my grade 6s, because this is just too easy and they're going to lose the maths behind it. But it is a really nice way to check their own answers, or to check, in fact, I wouldn't tell them about it, but to check your own memos and make sure you're all happy. All right, great. Are there any questions yet? Are we all still wonderfully happy? I've put you all to sleep. Do you want to just wave at me if you've got no questions, and then I'll move on to the next section. Thanks, Stephen. Okay, great. Fantastic. Okay. So the next thing, and the last section that we're going to cover, because apparently I'm flying through it today, is decimals. Okay, so for grade 6s, they need to be able to add and subtract to 2 decimal places, and they need to multiply decimals by 10 and by 100, and then of course to know their place values, and of course to compare in order, which is a critical skill, whether you're looking at fractions or decimals or whole numbers as well, and integers in grade 7. So there's a really nice function on the calculator called random, and it's really nice to use for practicing if you don't want to set up a whole bunch of questions. If you just want to give them 5 minutes of quick practice just to warm up their brains while you're doing something else or setting up your lesson, then this is also another nice option. So let me repeat myself. So second function 7, and then I'm going to use this option here called random. And what random does is it generates decimals between 0 and 1 to 3 decimal places. So here you can see it's 0.25. It's the first I've ever had that one. And then if you just say equals, it will just keep giving you new decimals. So you can round off to 2 decimal places, to 1 decimal place, to whole numbers, up to you. You can add, you can practice adding these together or subtracting them from each other. You know, there's a multitude of questions that you can do with this sort of stuff. So that's just a nice idea for practicing on your calculator. And then, of course, we've already covered equivalence on the calculator using our change button, but I'm just going to repeat it here. So you've got 0.5, and if you just press equals, it will automatically calculate that, change that decimal into a fraction for you. Now, if you change it, if you put in a fraction first, so let's press on here, 1/3, and I'm going to say equals, and then I'll just change it and it will give me my decimal as well. So it's really quite easy to use and to check. Now, this is a really fun exercise to do with your students. So to explore the concept of multiplying by 10 and finding the rule. So it's more of an investigation to figure out the rule. I love investigations, and table mode lends itself so nicely to that sort of investigation as well. So what we're going to do is, all I'm going to say is I'm going to type in an X. Okay, so that's my spot in my number sentence, my block, and I'm just going to multiply it by 10. I'm going to say equals, leave function 2 for now, we'll come back to it in a sec. Leave my start at 0, but what I want to do is make my step 0.1, okay, and equals. Now, if we look, if I have 0.1 times 10, I get 1. and 0.2 times 10 gives me 2. And if I go through my table, you can see that my decimal is just shifting one place to the right to give me my answer, my whole number. Okay, so that's what they should be discovering with this investigation. Now we can also do it with hundreds. So I'm going to leave this times 10 here because it lends itself. And in my function 2, I'm going to say x times 100 and equals. And this time I'm going to make my step 0.01 and go from there. I mean, your table is unlimited, so it really lends itself to these sorts of exercises as well. And it doesn't matter where you start from, in which direction you go, the table is unlimited in either direction. So it's a lot of fun for doing things like multiples and factor pairs and all of that sort of stuff as well. So here you can see, okay, if I times this fraction, this decimal by 10, I get 1 shift. But if I times it by 100, it moves over twice. And 10 times 10 gives me 100, which is this jump here. So it's a really nice way for them to see what's happening with the different applications of 10 and 100 to your decimal. And because you have unlimited table, you can really go as long as you like without running out of space on your calculator. So it's a really nice way to investigate that sort of question. All right, fantastic. To those of you who are joining us on YouTube, thank you so much for your time. Please subscribe and like our channel.